Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Beguiled by Books. Today, I've got for you 6 standalone novels that will make you feel things in your cold, dead heart, because it made me feel them in mine. Let's get started. As someone who consistently reads about 100 books per year, I've read a lot, I've seen a lot of tropes. I can often predict how stories will turn out, understand the journeys of the characters, that type of thing. That doesn't diminish my enjoyment by any stretch of the imagination, but it does take a very special book to make me feel something in my heart and my soul. And these 6 books did that beautifully. The first 2 books are by the same author. So this author, Meg Schaefer, has a stranglehold on me at the current moment. And those books are The Wishing Game and The Lost Story. I got both of them as ARCs at different points in time and love them both dearly. They are hugs in book form. They are big, soft, comfy blankets and hot beverages on a rainy day for your soul. It is amazing. They're 2 very different stories, very different situations happening, not related at all. Both of them are standalone novels, but oh my goodness, they're both so beautiful and so they just make you feel so good and warm and hopeful about the world that I want everyone to read them. They're absolutely incredible. So pick one, read both, doesn't matter, but they're wonderful. The Wishing Game is more of like a found family trope, and the Lost Story is more of a fairy tale for adults, which is really fun. You can't go wrong either way. Read them both if you would like my actual recommendation, but you cannot go wrong with picking either or. Another book that made me feel something was The Women by Kristen Hanna. And I've told this story before, but I got this as an ARC, and I had been aware of Kristen Hanna and her writing. I'd never actually read anything by her before. And I had no idea what this book was about, no idea what I was getting into. I just started reading it. And I realized at the beginning it was kind of a historical fiction about the Vietnam War era. And I was like, oh, I don't know about this. And if Kristen Hanna did not have me just diving right into that book by the second chapter, my goodness, one, that woman can write, no secret there, beautiful prose. But the things I felt for these women in the book, for the characters in the book and the situation they were in was amazing. I mean, one, you kind of feel like you're in the action, but not in a bad way, but it's very visceral in the emotional state that these characters were in during the Vietnam War, Vietnam conflict. And then when they returned, which is kind of the bigger part of the story, what happens when they return. Oh my goodness, this book just, I laughed, I cried, I read it in a day and a half. I was utterly smitten by this book. I will absolutely recommend it to anyone who will listen. Another book which consistently makes some of my favorite books of all time is In the Shadow Garden by Liz Parker. This book is a little bit of romance, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of small town, country, down home stuff, herbalism, magic, bourbon. You can't go wrong. It was a really great book. I love that the characters in the story are also a little bit older. They're not necessarily teenagers making teenager type decisions. We've got mature adults here in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s, who are still facing various parts of navigating being an adult and being a human and what to do and making wrong decisions and having to rectify that and the past coming back to bite you and what do you do when that happens. And it was such a great book. And again, I will recommend this all day, every day. Wonderful story. The author is delightful. Highly recommend. Another book that I would gladly recommend as a book that made me feel something is City of Girls. This novel, again, it's a standalone and it takes place over the course of a 90-year-old woman's life from her late teens all the way up to present day in her 90s, in specifically in New York City over the 40s and 50s era of showgirls and that, Frank Sinatra kind of era and what Broadway looked like, what New York City looked like, and more specifically, what it meant to be a woman going through this very tumultuous time as all different types of social progress was happening. You've got the civil rights movement, you've got Vietnam happening in the background, you've got the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. It's fascinating to see the story unfold through this one woman's life and what that must have been like. And again, connecting with the characters at different points in their lives and what they did and what they wish they had done, reflecting, as a 90-year-old back on her life. Beautiful story. It really sticks with me over time. And I would love it if you read it as well and then told me about it. Drop a comment if you have read it. My final book that I would recommend is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This book brought me out of a reading slump like I had never known, and it was beautiful. Addie LaRue as a character is incredible. This woman who's been given a gift that's also a curse, and how she navigates her 300 plus years dealing with that. It's part fantasy, part very much real life, and just a beautiful story about love and legacy and what that means to each individual person who faces those things. I desperately want there to be a sequel. I know there will not be. I desperately want this to be adapted to film. That might actually happen. But this was a beautiful story, and I highly recommend everyone read this book. What standalone books have you read, or even not standalone books? What series have you read that made you feel something in your soul? I always want to know. Please tell me in the comments. I'm happy to read them. And as always, please like this video and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Have a wonderful day.